Every desert has a wound, buried beneath the sand, sealed with silence and forgotten blood. Dirt Fork was such a place. A ghost town so old, even the ghosts had stopped whispering. The sun was retreating from the sky the way frightened animals retreat from fire, fast, and with good reason. Down a cracked dirt road, a single figure moved through the dying light. His name was Rango, sheriff of somewhere small and unimportant. He wore a red Hawaiian shirt, carried no weapon worth mentioning, and rode atop an ancient tortoise named Grimsby with the quiet dignity of a creature who had given up on dignity entirely. Ahead of him, barely visible through the bruised purple dusk, the broken silhouette of Dirt Fork rose from the sand. Crooked buildings, collapsed watchtower, a church with a broken cross, and from one single window, deep inside the town, a pale green light, breathing. The iron sign above the town entrance swung on two corroded chains. Its letters were barely readable. Dirt Fork. Population? Don't ask. Every building on the main street stood hollow and leaning, the way old bones lean when the body that held them has long since rotted away. The saloon doors moved without wind. A broken mirror in the barbershop caught Rango's reflection, and for just one terrible moment, the reflection didn't move when he did. He walked slowly down the dead street. His eyes swept the shadows. On the ground between two warped planks, something glinted. A rusted sheriff's star, old and corroded, half swallowed by the sand. He reached down and picked it up. A name was scratched into the back. Marshal Vorin. The moment his fingers closed around it, every door in every building on the street slammed shut at the exact same time. One sound, one breath, as if the town had been holding its breath since the day it died, and was now exhaling. Inside the saloon, time had stopped and rotted in place. Tables overturned, glasses still sitting at the bar, waiting for owners who would never return. A piano in the far corner, its keys yellowed like old teeth, played one single hollow note as Rango crossed the threshold. No wind, nothing with fingers, and yet the note hung in the dead air like a question no one dared answer. Pinned to the wall behind the bar with a long yellowed bone was a map, drawn not in ink, but in something old and dark and worse. It showed the town from above, and beneath the town, carved in careful horrible detail, a massive underground system of tunnels and chambers. At the very center, a deep black circle, labeled in scratched letters, the Shadow Well. Do not descend. Lines spread outward from the well like veins, reaching beneath every building. At the end of each line, a crude drawing of an animal. One of those drawings was unmistakably a chameleon, in a Hawaiian shirt, staring back at Rango from across 300 years of silence. There was a trapdoor behind the bar. Rango descended alone into a cold that had no business being beneath a desert. Ancient stone tunnels stretched in every direction, carved not by miners but by something with too many fingers working over too many centuries. Strange symbols covered every wall, not painted, not scratched, burned into the stone. And the moment Rango stepped inside, those symbols began to move, to rearrange, like sentences being rewritten in response to a presence the stone had been waiting 300 years to sense. The air tasted of still water and old memory. The tunnels led him downward, always downward, through chambers where the sound of his own footsteps fell wrong. Too flat, too absorbed, as if the stone was swallowing noise. And then the passage opened, and there it was, the Shadow Well, a perfect circle of black stone, 15 feet wide, impossibly deep. From far below its edge, a dim green light pulsed upward, slow, rhythmic, like lungs. The well was breathing. They came from the walls, not through doorways, through the stone itself, flat and ink black, sliding the way a stain spreads through paper. They were the taken, the souls swallowed by the well over 3 decades of silence. Their faces were barely recognizable, lizards, foxes, mice, all half erased, half remembered, their eyes white and hollow. They did not scream. They did not reach. They simply watched, moving in slow circles around the well's edge, as though they had been doing this for so long they had forgotten how to stop. Then, Something descended from the ceiling darkness, not flying, simply arriving, as if it had always been there and was only now choosing to be visible. An enormous ancient horned owl. Its feathers moved like black smoke. Its face was too wide and too flat, the eyes entirely white with no trace of any pupil. It wore the rotted remains of a marshal's coat. Its talons gripped the stone of the well's edge without a sound. And from deep inside the far chamber wall, carved 3 centuries ago, an image stared outward. Chameleon, in a Hawaiian shirt, waiting. There was nowhere left to run. The tunnel behind him had sealed itself. Solid stone where there had been a passage, the symbols above it burning orange and then going dark like dying eyes. The shadow forms circled tighter. The well pulsed harder. And in that terrible moment, Rango stood alone at the edge of a 300-year-old darkness with a rusted badge in his hand and nothing else. The keeper had called it a trap, a badge placed in the street, bait for the right soul. But on the walls, the whispering faces of the taken made a sound. Not screaming, not words, just one repeated shape of sound. Please, please, please. Something that had given up on everything except that one syllable. Whatever Rango was, confused, stubborn, poorly dressed. He was not the kind of creature who could unhear that sound. He looked at the badge in his hand. He looked at the well. He drew back his arm, and he threw it in. For 3 seconds, the world was still. The shadow forms dissolved. The keeper was gone. The green light faded. Rango thought he had won. He had freed the dead. He had done the right thing. He was wrong. From the well, something rose that was not green light. It was black light, a darkness that illuminated itself, that let you see the dark in extraordinary, terrible detail, poured upward like water flowing the wrong direction. And from a hidden stone alcove at the far end of the chamber, an alcove that had not existed a moment ago, a figure stepped forward, an ancient desert rattlesnake. Massive, its scales the color of dried rust, its eyes a deep violet that held centuries inside them. Around its neck, a string of old bones, and a glass vial of swirling black smoke. This was Sarathix, the one who had built the well. Every step Rango had taken, the road, the map, the badge, the descent had been placed, arranged. The shadow well was never a prison holding the dead in. It was a seal holding something ancient out, and Rango had just broken it open. Rango ran. There was nothing else to do. The tunnels collapsed around him, stones splitting from ceiling to floor, the ancient symbols burning cold and dark like stars dying in sequence. Through a crack in the floor, a shape was rising. Not a monster in the way stories describe monsters. Something older than the word for monster. It moved through the stone the way a thought moves through a mind, instantly everywhere, hungry in a way that predates the very idea of hunger. Rango's legs moved faster than legs that Thin had any right to move. Ahead, a crack of light, natural light, gray and cold and beautiful. He threw himself at it, scrambling upward through a split in the earth, tearing his Hawaiian shirt on the stone, and burst out into the open air of Dirt Fork's main street. He lay face down on the warped wooden planks, breathing, alive, and from very far below, deep beneath the town, the thing that had been sleeping for 3 centuries took its first breath of open air. The crack in the street sealed itself behind him, solid stone, silent, as if it had never existed. But then, spreading outward from its edge, dark tendrils moved through the grain of the old wood. Not shadow, not smoke, something without a name. It spread the way roots spread when a tree has finally found water, patient and unstoppable, reaching toward the edge of town, toward the desert, toward the distant lights of mud. Rango stared at those spreading lines for a long time. Then he looked up at the iron sign above the town entrance, swinging on its one remaining chain. He was certain, absolutely certain, that the sign had read something different when he arrived. But now, in the cold gray pre-dawn light, it read plainly, Dirt Fork, population growing. He mounted Grimsby. He rode into the dawn without looking back. And in the weeks that followed, back in mud, animals reported strange things. Shadows in places shadows had no right to be. water in the well with a taste that was wrong in a way no one could name. And late at night, in the silence under the floorboards, a sound. Slow, rhythmic, patient. The same sound that had risen from 300 feet below a forgotten desert town. The shadow well was empty now, but something had learned to breathe above ground.